Welcome to another week, another show of Hawkeyed with me, Dave O'Hara. Momentarily, you'll see our buddy Sean Bock from 24/7 and CBS Sports, 24/7 Sports. Sean, beat writer for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And my goodness, looking forward to talking to Sean this week because we have a lot to catch up on later on in the program to close out the show in the third and final segment. So Sean's kind enough to join us for the first two segments. And then Craig and Stacy Schroeder, they're back with Fight with Fives Foundation. Can't wait to catch up with them as well. So thanks for tuning in. Got another great show lined up for you this week, and we're ready to roll with Sean Bock. So Sean, thanks for joining us. Great to see you again. You've got a lot to report on. You were at Media Day last Friday as we record this on Wednesday afternoon, August 14th. And then, of course, you were at the scrimmage and Kids Day on Saturday at Kinnick Stadium. You've got some recruiting to talk to us about football and men's basketball. And then also we'll talk about some more football analysis with you throughout these first two segments. So first of all, thanks for joining us. Good to see you. And how you doing, Sean?
Yeah, I'm doing good, Dave. Doing well.
Let's talk about some of your observations, some of your experiences from Media Day last Friday, and then we'll morph into and roll into Saturday's scrimmage, please, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, Media Day is a really good opportunity for us, the media, to not only talk to the players, because we get to talk to the players a lot throughout the course of the year, but we also get to talk to the younger guys this time around and some of those freshmen or maybe second year players that you don't really get to talk to that often. But really, for me, Media Day, the highlights talking to the coordinators and some of the assistant coaches. They usually give a lot of really good stuff that, is really insightful that, you don't get those Kirkisms all the time that you sometimes see during or you see a lot during the Kirk Ferentz press conferences. So it's really good to get a different perspective throughout, the coaching staff and certain things. I didn't get the opportunity to talk to Iowa offense coordinator Tim Lester, but I imagine that there was a lot of the same stuff that, he's kind of said in the past and different podcast appearances and a few things that he said throughout the summer and spring ball when he got here. But I had some good conversation with Iowa offensive line coach George Barnett. And as you know, the offensive line is really kind of the ticket for Iowa this year. I mean, you can talk about quarterback play all you want. That's going to be super important, but offensive line play is going to be key. And that's always been kind of the key during, Kirk Ferentz's tenure in Iowa City. If you have a good offensive line, then, you're going to find success. And this last couple of years, this offensive line just hasn't really had the experience that we're used to with some of these really good offensive lines that we've seen in the past. And, George Barnett is really confident with this year's group because these guys are entering year 3, year 4, not, year 1, year 2, year 3, for year 3, year 4, and even some year 5 guys. They feel really good about where things are at. They think that this year is kind of the year where they kind of put all things together. And, you ask George Barnett what's different about this year. I mean, he talks about experience, talks about consistency. They're really piling together practice, piling together reps, piling together schemes, things that are looking smoother. And you saw that in the Kids Day scrimmage on Saturdays. It just looked like a more comfortable offensive line unit. They were able to get push up front. They just looked like a more cohesive unit. And, we talked about, too, the depth that they have behind this group because that's been one of the concerns throughout the last couple of years is the depth. And, it's not really an issue this year. They have 7 or 8 guys that they feel really good about. Logan Jones is going into his 3rd year. They feel like this is the year for him to, really take that leap forward that he's capable of doing. They have experience at tackles. They have a lot of depth at the guard spots. And they have a group behind them that they call the push group that, consists of a couple of younger guys, rising second-year guys like, Trevor Lauk, Leighton Jones, Cade Pieper, and then a more experienced guy going in his 3rd year and Jack Oatsler at the tackle position. And Barnett was like, yeah, we didn't have any of that, in my first couple of years. And I thought that was really reassuring to hear because, not only do you have a group that's ready for future years or a group that they feel like is more, well prepared than some of the units that they've had in the past, but it's a group that if you need them, they can go in there if they need to, or like guys that you can kind of throw in there in emergency situations. But going back to the starting group, like they just feel like they've put together more practices and they just feel like they've been more overall consistent as a unit. And, that's really comforting to hear because, you hear that in the past, but then you kind of hear like, there are times where, Barnett said this too, in years past, there were a lot of ebbs and flows. Like there were a lot of ups and downs. And, this year it doesn't feel like that. And he also mentioned too that 5 of his 6 coaching stops, he's had to rebuild. Like he's had a similar rebuilding process like he's had his first few years in Iowa City. And I thought that was really, interesting to hear because he's been through it. He knows, the kind of steps that you have to take to potentially get to a place that you want to be. And, I know a lot of people are like, okay, the offensive line is, struggled the last couple of years and Iowa fans aren't used to that. But, there's a lot that went into that. Like there were guys that they missed on, guys, in recruiting classes. Like Barnett said that there were like basically two recruiting classes that, guys didn't see snaps or like barely any of those guys saw snaps. And, they had to start a second year walk on at one point. They had to start a redshirt freshman at one point. Like, there's just more experience with this group. And I think the fact that he's been through the rebuilding process with these guys is going to make things a lot more, it's just a lot more reassuring going into this year than maybe in past years. And, the fact that he's been through it and these guys have been through it and you kind of just see the confidence growing too.
That is great to hear, especially for this offensive line, much maligned, as we know, throughout the past couple of years when Brian Ferentz was the offensive coordinator. We'll spend some time in the next segment or maybe closing out this segment talking about the defense and of course, special teams. Reese Dakin looks like he's going to be taking over very capably from Torrey Taylor, who is now with the Chicago Bears in the NFL. And then also Drew Stevens is back. And from what I'm hearing, from what LeVar Woods has said, special teams coach better than ever. You were at Media Day well over almost 3 weeks ago now in Indianapolis at the end of July, now that we're in the middle of August here. So we'll spend some more time talking about defense and special teams as time allows. But let's get back to the offense. I love that you took a deep dive into the offensive line and George Barnett and what's happening there with the Hawkeyes. But let's you and I talk a little bit. Tyler Barnes now, basically, if it was a professional sports team, the Hawks would be, and let's be honest, that's what colleges have become anymore with the NIL and everything else. That he is now, congratulations, is kind of the GM of the Iowa Hawkeyes, for lack of a better term. So that was interesting news. But also, I want you to talk a little bit about the motion. From all the comments you heard in Indianapolis from the players and coaches and assistants and from Media Day, and then you got to see it in practice the next day on Kids Day, that Saturday after Media Day last Friday. Again, we record this on Wednesday afternoon, August 14th. Sean, what did you see? What leaps out to you from Tim Lester's new and revamped offense? A lot of motion we're hearing, pre-snap motion. Cade McNamara's got to stay healthy as that offensive line. The pressure's even more on them, to your point about how well they're doing. But when we talk about this, Sean, I'm very glad that you focused on the offensive line, because a lot of people were concerned Saturday because Cade wasn't statistically didn't look very good. Although he ran the ball well and people held their breath because of his knee, but he's 100% from what we're hearing. Give me some of your takeaways in reference to Tim Lester, the new pre-snap motion, the offense, Cade McNamara. Lay it all out for us, please, Sean.
Yeah, a lot of things with this offense too. It's like you got guys in motion, you got guys moving around pre-snap. That's also going to lead to a little bit of deficiencies when it comes to timing and comes to, figuring that stuff out. And, that's what fall camp's for. That's, figuring that stuff out. And Brendan Sullivan obviously had the better day and, he's had a really good fall camp too. But, it's not like either of them really looked like world beaters, that being Brendan Sullivan or Cade McNamara. So, yeah, I mean, it's like I said before, like I know we talked about a lot of offensive line previously. I kind of went maybe a little too long talking about that offensive line play, but it's so important this year.
No, I think that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you went extended because it is very important, especially because of the last couple of years. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I want to commend you on that. Go ahead, please, Sean.
But with Tim Lester's offense, I think, we talk a lot about the passing game, and that was something that was non-existent last year. It felt like, I mean, you saw it when Minnesota was putting 8 guys in the box, 8 or 9 guys in the box.
Yep.
And Iowa was just not able to run the football. And, they were daring them to throw the ball, but it's like, they're not going to throw the ball. They didn't trust Deacon Hill to throw the football. But with this on Saturday during the Kids Day practice, what I was looking for 2 things. Obviously, you wanted to see guys, attempting passes, making plays downfield. I don't know how much you were really going to see because, how much are you going to show? There are so many college football teams that are going to take these opportunities to see these open practices and use it as scout. And it's like with the media there, we're going to film everything. Like, it'd be silly to show what you really got.
Yeah.
But I was looking for push from the offensive line, pushing the defensive line back, and I was looking for running the football. Iowa didn't have LaShawn Williams on Saturday, who is probably going to be their starting running back. But Caleb Johnson and Kamari Moulton both had really good days, I thought. I thought those guys were running the football, were very productive. And, was a really bright spot on Saturday because, if you can run the football in any offense, especially Tim Lester's offense, that's kind of been the key for this what Tim Lester has said is the key for this offense is you got to be able to establish a run. In Iowa, the strength of Iowa's team this year, what is that? Running the football. That should be the strength this year because they have 3 or 4 guys that they can really lean on, being LaShawn Williams, Caleb Johnson, Kamari Molden, and Jazzy and Patterson. I think they have 4 guys that they can really go to if they need be. So if you can run the football, that would just open things up for the passing game because with the timing that they need on some of these passes and some of these schemes and, whatnot, I think it's going to take time for things to really mesh. And with Cade not being fully healthy, I think that, could push things back a little bit. I mean, says he's fully healthy, but, there's a mental hurdle that you got to get over
Exactly.
to play quarterback after overcoming two season-ending injuries. So, he'll get there, I think, eventually. And if not, then I think they'll put in Brendan Sullivan. I still have Sullivan or McNamara is the leader right now, but looking back at Saturday, I mean, yes, the passing game wasn't there, but offensive line getting pushed, that was great. Running backs being able to run the ball, getting, chunk yards.
The Hawkeyes have some experience and good health in the offensive line. They may have something this year, so that'll be interesting. As you and I both know, Sean, from football, as you said, not to be cliche, but it's true. It's a cliche because it's true. It all starts up front, to your point about the push of the offensive line. So let's see Sean Bock, 24/7 and CBS Sports, Iowa Hawkeye beat writer, 27 Sports, CBS Sports. I am Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. We'll be back with more in just a few moments.
Hawkeye is brought to you by Better Edge, your ultimate social betting marketplace. With no VIG, you're bound to win more on every bet on Better Edge. Founded by Hawkeye alum James Siles and proud Iowan Greg Kajewski, Better Edge delivers an unmatched betting experience. Plus, what's not to love when they're committed to supporting charities and children's hospitals near you? Join the action now. Sign up at betteredge.com/Hawkeye and get $10 to start winning more today. Better Edge, where your social betting means your bets go further and you win more.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Pleased to be joined by our good buddy Sean Bock, was kind enough to stay over for a second segment. Sean with 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports, Iowa Hawkeye beat writer. We're talking football today. We'll morph into a little bit of basketball conversation as well for men's basketball. Talking some recruiting. Yosei Epinesa. Yes, that name sounds familiar to a lot of Hawkeye fans, Sean. Dad Epi played at Iowa, and now older brothers have played at Iowa, with AJ being one specifically, and now he is in the NFL with the Buffalo Bills, has a brother on the current team right now. Let's talk a little bit about the recruiting and where we're at with Yosei Epinesa, please, Sean.
Yeah, he made his way to Iowa City this past weekend. It's not technically a visit because it's a dead period, so he can't technically talk to the coaches, kind of do the whole shebang that a visit entails. But the fact that he was in Iowa City, I think that's, a pretty good sign. And I know the family is very close. The family is very supportive of each other. And, Yosei and his older brother, Eric, are good buddies and they're pretty close. But I mean, it just kind of seems like, that's a good sign. Like that's a positive sign that, he's making his way to Iowa City. He can't technically talk to the coaches, but he's getting up there, especially during, these last couple of weeks because the talk behind the scenes is like it's been really decision-making mode the last few weeks. They haven't been on their phones as much. They're kind of getting close to being over it a little bit. And, it's kind of a different scenario because AJ made a decision. I think it was like midway through his junior year.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't his junior season, but junior year. Yosei's kind of taking things into the fall. And it's like, maybe you think another school is going to get involved, but, they're kind of, at their wits or not their wits end, but they're getting to that point where they're kind of ready close to shut it down. And, that's kind of really heated up in the last few weeks. And you kind of hear a new contender every other week. Like, sometimes it's Penn State and Iowa, sometimes it's Utah and Iowa, sometimes it's Miami and Iowa. At one point people were saying it was Utah and Miami. Like, the family just does a really good job of keeping things close to the vest and, not really letting a ton of people in. So it's they have a good poker face with that. But, I think it's really started, like you see with this recruitment, like Yosei is kind of the younger brother. So he is the younger brother. So he wants to do his own thing maybe. But now it's like, everything just starts to seem to connect a little bit more. I think he's really starting to get the Iowa vibe, and they did a really good job on the official visit in June. And, a lot of these schools play a big, like Utah's still going to push, but, it's still kind of if they know what they're going up against in Iowa. I mean, yep, if it's any other family, I mean, Yes, Iowa does a really good job of, with the legacies and keeping the families involved, keeping the former players involved. But, the Epinesa family is like one of the most vocal, and Epi's one of the most vocal fans on social media. Like,
Yeah.
whether or not, he's had a son that's recruited. But, I think Iowa has done a really good job in this race, and they put themselves in a good position. And, I know they were pretty excited about having Epi or Yosei on campus this past weekend, even though they couldn't talk to him. But that's one of those signs where you feel a little bit better about things. And like I said, it's not a done deal. Miami's probably still going to push, but the talk is that the Canes don't really feel great about it. Utah's still going to push. There's a lot of Polynesians up there.
Yep.
The type of yeah. So that's always going to play a role. And one of Epi's best friends is on the Utah staff too, so that obviously helps Utah in a way. But Iowa, I mean, there's just so much that works in Iowa's favor in this recruitment. And, obviously Yosei wants to make his own decision, but, it kind of seems like things are trending Iowa's direction right now.
It'll be
Right.
fun to see where this plays out. And hopefully he is a Hawkeye because that Epinesa name has had a great deal of success at the University of Iowa. So
Yeah, and he'll probably be, or at least AJ thinks that Yosei will be the best one at the group. So that's
ah,
pretty high praise from your brother, who has done a pretty good job in the NFL early in his career.
absolutely. Let's talk some basketball. You're going to have some recruits on campus upcoming as the football season kicks off. They may be on the sideline visiting Hawkeye football games. So Iowa Hawkeye men basketball, Fran McCaffrey and his coaches having a lot of talent in. Let's talk a little bit about that. It's never too early to talk basketball, as we know, Sean. We're talking a lot of football because as the time this show airs, we'll only be 2 weeks out. By the time people see this show, we'll only be 2 weeks away from kickoff at Kinnick. But then we're going to have some basketball players in. So let's you and I talk a little bit about that. What's on the agenda for Hawkeye recruiting in men's basketball, please, Sean?
Yeah, right now, as of today, they have 10 top 175 prospects in the 2025
Mm,
class taking official visits to Iowa City this fall. And, that's a lot of guys. And now that, they have unlimited official visits in basketball, and, that can, some visits might get canceled, might not all these visits takes place. But, from what I remember, this is probably the most jam-packed visit or like fall visit weekends, I've kind of seen during my tenure here, covering the Hawkeyes for Iowa basketball. And, Iowa, obviously the transfer portal is king. That's going to be, the main deal for teams going forward. But Iowa knows, like, they're a program that's going to develop guys. That's going to be their first and foremost route in through the recruiting process. They want to get guys that can be here for 2, 3, 4 years. I mean, heck, if
mm-hmm.
you get some one and dones, that would be fantastic too. But what are who have been some of the best players to put on an Iowa uniform? These guys that are here for 3, 4, or 5 years. And that's kind of the case. That's kind of the thing that, they've tried to take advantage of is some of these programs aren't going to hit high school recruiting as hard. So we can, maybe we can have a route where we can get some of these guys that maybe we don't get in past years, or maybe we can't even get on campus in past years. And I think with what they have to sell in the NBA, yes, Luka Garza is not a superstar, but he's on an NBA roster. He's a pretty
That's right.
notable name. Keegan Murray is a rising star in the NBA. Chris Murray, if the Trailblazers get better, I think he can be a really good player. Joe Wieskamp, I know he's playing overseas now, but, he's a guy. Peyton Sanford had some NBA draft stock this year. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
And they
absolutely.
have they've had more national prominence in the last couple of years, and they're really playing that to their strengths.
I think you've really hit upon something with that player development thing.
Yeah, I think that's one of their big pitches too. And obviously, some of the programs they're going up against for some of these guys have more of an NIL base than Iowa does, and
Yep.
that's got to be a hill you got to overcome. But at the end of the day, they do a good job of getting guys that they want, and obviously maybe not some of their first options in some cases, but they've had a pretty good hit rate with some of the guys that they've recruited in the last couple of years compared to some of the guys that they've missed on. And you're going to miss on guys in this class. There's no doubt about that. But they have
Absolutely. Yep.
potential to get some guys in this class that I think maybe a couple years ago they don't have a great chance of getting. And it's going to be very fascinating to watch.
Sean, thanks so much. Great to see you again, and we'll catch up with you in a few weeks.
Yep, sounds good, Dave. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you. So again, for Sean Bock, I'm Dave O'Hara. Back with more Hawkeye with Craig and Stacy Schroeder from the Fight with Flash Foundation. We'll close out the show with them. Back with more in just a few moments. Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Pleased to bring our next couple of folks on that join us regularly, and it's been a while though because of schedules. It's Craig and Stacy Schroeder with the Fight with Flash Foundation. Yesterday would have been Flash's 25th birthday. So we'll start with you, Stace. Go ahead, please.
That's right. Oh my gosh, yeah, our busy spring and into summer, definitely for us. But as usual, we loved our time. In May, we went down to Dick Vitale's annual gala, and we with Schrader or with the Schaefers and McCaffreys, and had the best time. Dick did an amazing job. He's coming off of his throat, his cancer. He was beating it all so good. He was having a hard time. He wasn't supposed to be speaking, but he did just a little bit, got the okay for that, and did amazing. And oh my gosh, it was the best time. On top of, he had a record-breaking year, and it was like $12.5 million. Is what they raised.
Or you spun it to the positive, as does Dick Vitale, and the Schaefers are with you. And we mentioned Tater Tough with Brad and Darcy Schaefer, but also the McCaffreys, Fran and Margaret, with their battle with Patrick back in the day when Patrick was laying in a hospital bed next to your son, Austin Flash Schrader. For you specifically, Stacey, talk about the Crosstown Baseball Classic. What another great event, televised again. So great stuff.
Oh my gosh, we look forward to this. It is like truly one of my favorites of the fundraisers here. It's so special having all the surrounding high school teams play each other, on top of getting the youth players playing each other on the other fields, all in the same town of Solon, on the same area. It's just so fun. We get a ton of people and the families and all it was a beautiful day. Awesome fundraiser. I think it was probably close to 20,000, wasn't it? That was raised that day. So it was pretty awesome. And we have such amazing support. The love and support continues and pours out for us. And we could never thank everybody enough for that always that we receive. And, but we sure appreciate it.
And thank you, Stacey, again for all that. Let's talk about the magic number you're approaching, because you do dance marathons throughout the year too. I don't want to short sell those, but we'll stick to, besides the magic number you're getting to, I'll let you talk about, but also then you got an upcoming Fight with Flash golf tourney. My goodness, that's been a huge success over the years. And your online bourbon auction, another huge success. Let's talk about those two things and the magic number, please, Craig.
Awesome. No, yes. September 20th is a Friday, and our Fight with Flash Crosstown Classic, or the Charity Golf Classic, will be at Finkbine, and we've already got a full 36 teams already. Which is great. There are a few new teams that do get in, usually because they ask or from one year and they can't get in, and they ask to do a sponsorship. And so collectively, our initial email that goes out probably goes out to about 60 or 70 some sponsors from previous years, and it quickly fills up right away. So, but there are other non-golf sponsorships that people can be involved in and still support. As you say, this is a big year. Hopefully we get through that. And then in November, we'll have a 4-day bourbon event through an online group called the Angel Share. And it's something you can't find unless you're a member of it, and you just have to be invited by a current member, and you have to agree not to basically resell things that you get from this. What a great way for people to donate money and then have a chance to win a bottle through this lottery system that they do. So we're hoping for a couple of really, really big events, and if we get those, if we can donate 150,000 again this year, we will reach the $1 million mark come December when we write the check.
I want to reach everybody that we can, support these wonderful efforts. And again, I just think of Austin's words to you about "this isn't fair, Dad," and you said, "Yeah, I know, bud, it's a tough role for you." And he's like, "No, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about other kids. I don't want anybody to go through this." Thinking like that as a young 15-year-old kid, a young man saying that to you as dad, and I'm just taken by that. And again, the saying that you have behind you there are only two things you can control: attitude and effort. And You two are doing a great job, Craig and Stacy Schroeder, with the Fight with Flash Foundation and getting that motto moving it forward. Always a shot in the arm when you join the show. I know we don't have you on as often as we used to, but I'm glad to have you on a full segment. We'll continue to do this with you instead of regularly for 2 or 3 minutes. We get to stretch it out and talk to you for a little bit and see all and hear about all the wonderful work you're doing. So again, fightwithflashfoundation.org or at Fight with Flash. Craig, Stacy, thank you so much. Great to see you again.
Yeah, you
Thanks
too,
so much,
Dave.
Dave.
Thank you so much.
Truly my pleasure. Thank you. So for Craig and Stacy Schroeder, Sean Bock, my production partner, Greg Kajewski, and to you, the viewers, I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. That's all from us. Thanks to all of you.